You've been married 5, 10, 15, or even 20 years, and it's just been like this for years. I don't know my spouse anymore. I feel like we're just roommates. This is something that you're probably considering, right? Because you may be tired of the situation, and you're not alone. A lot of couples feel like this, right? And so here's the thing. If you're a naturally driven and motivated person, this is likely draining, emotionally draining, physically draining. I just want to get away from this. And so we say that to say that we do completely understand where you're coming from with this type of consideration. Now, here's the truth, okay? We've seen both sides of this. There are some married people who separate, do this, separate for 6 weeks, 5 weeks, 4 weeks, a month, and things actually work out for the best for them. We've seen it. Okay, so there is truth to the fact that the separation can help. Now, here's the thing about it. There's also a major group of people where that separation was just one step away, the one step that their relationship needed to walk right into a divorce. And so what does this show? That the separation, this temporary separation, has no guarantee to save any marriage or any relationship. And there are actually statistics to show the difference between the number of couples or the percentage of couples that stay together after a decision like this versus those that just walk right into separation and final divorce.
And the stats show that 10 to 15% of couples actually get back together. And that's because, some people actually need that break where they can work on themselves. It gives a couple of breaks sometimes where they can have the opportunity to miss each other. And when you have the opportunity to miss each other and you're working on yourself, you have a fresh mind. You can come back to a relationship with a fresh perspective and think, okay, what can we do to make this thing work? So for some couples, it actually works. And there's 85% that actually get divorced. So there's two sides to this. Everything is not one-sided. So for some people, a separation will work. And for others, it won't work. And what happens is what we've seen is that when a couple starts out with a separation, sometimes it creates the environment where anything that happens, the door is open. Now we can separate again. And what this does is when you create that relationship environment, it breaks down the trust and security in the relationship. It tears it down. Because if my spouse, if she can always, whenever she wants to, hey, I need to go back to my mom's house for a while. I need to go to my dad's house for a while, my parents' house for a while. What is that doing to our relationship?
Right. Especially if it's trust that's been trying to have been built for some time, because trust takes time to build. And so if that door remains open, then, that's you're starting at a level 0. And so if trust and vulnerability or trust and security is a priority in your relationship, it's something to consider, right? Creating this space where, now we can always just leave again. And then it just becomes like, this is how we resolve our problems. We run away from them. This is how we resolve our problems. This is what we've seen people do. Just, it's time for a break again. It's time for a break again, like a job. It's time for the break again. It's time for the break again, right? And so if this is not the kind of relationship you want where, there isn't much security because at any point in time you could just run out because you feel like we need it, right? It's something to really think about it. This is the kind of decision you want to make. Also, what we've seen is that it decreases the resilience of the relationship, meaning anything is a means for separation. Anything becomes a means for divorce. And it's something to think about. And the truth of the matter is, it just takes you one step closer. We've seen this time and time again. Couples who are like, you know what? We're only going to separate. Let's do this for 6 weeks. Let's just try this for 6 weeks. Let's just try this for 30 days. I just need time. Or this one, I just need time. It takes them one step closer to divorce. But not only that, they have very little resilience to go through trial in the relationship, to go through tribulation. They lose the grit of facing tribulation together. They lose the grit of handling and confronting the problem and talking about the situation without running away.
And when you build something, when you work together for something, you value it more. So if a couple can work together, outside of separation or separate, come back and work things out, your relationship is going to be that much stronger. And the emotional intimacy, the friendship is going to be that much stronger. But these are choices that, some of you are going to have to make. Do we want to, try separate for a while? Or do we want to stay right here and just try right now and just work it out without the separation? Another thing this does, it leaves the door open for someone else to walk in. Why? Because people get lonely. I've seen this and, personally from friends, from family members, different things of nature where, a separation was just supposed to be for like a month or 2 months, whatever it may be. And it turned out being years, not even getting back together. So it does work for some people and for some it don't.
Another thing that we've seen this do is create a familiar feeling. A familiar feeling of what? Of singleness, of solitude, of being alone. Now, we're not saying that, don't take time to yourself, don't ever be alone. No. But if you're thinking about being alone for 6 weeks, 7, 8 weeks, because of the state of the relationship, there's no telling whether yourself or your spouse is going to begin to crave a continuation of that single solitude, alone, familiar feeling that we felt before we were married. So these are some of the things that you'll want to consider, because 9 times out of 10, or according to the stats, 87% of the time, couples who do this temporary separation, it just leads them right into the divorce. Now, with all of that being said, you're probably like, Tazadaq and Zakah, like, what do I do? I've been thinking about this, or we've already talked about this, or we already put this in the, it's already part of the plan. What do we do? With all that being said, before you do anything, we encourage you to consider a few things.
One thing is have a conversation about the real reason why this is on the table. Because sometimes we get caught up and we're hinting at why it's on the table, or we really haven't sat down and looked within ourselves and see, why is this on the table? And have that conversation with your spouse. Really sit down. And if you're the one that's initiating the conversation, tell it respectfully, say it honestly, right? It's like season your words with salt so your spouse can understand exactly where you're coming from. And it gives them the opportunity to understand where you're coming from, to hear you, to relate to you. And it gives them the opportunity to work towards the relationship, to work on the relationship. So you don't have to separate, you don't have to leave. Another alternative to consider is, programs, courses, workshops. There's things out there online that you can invest in, to work on your relationship, to work on yourself, that you two can do together to take your relationship from where it is right now to where you desire it to be. But the thing is, you got to be able to put the time in, and that's it right there. Just putting the time in.
Some people are surviving their relationship. Like, we just gonna call it what it is. Some people are just participating in the marriage, like we call it. Just participating, just checking in, checking out, like you do at a job, right? And so when we get to that place, it's not very satisfying. It's not very appealing. And what tends to happen is couples survive off of little bursts of inspiration and bursts of motivation, right? A little trip here, a little thing there, a little tip here, a little tip there. All of this is bursts of inspiration. And the fact of the matter is, if separation is on the table, if temporary separation is on the table, it may just be time to take some long-term action. What does that look like? You decide. It could be something where, I like the counseling style of doing things, or I like the therapy style of doing things, or I want to try the coaching style of doing things. Whatever style you decide to take long-term action, but make a decision, come to an agreement, because, if you've been married 5, 10, or even 15 years, maybe 20 years, and you are in this back and forth of talks of separation or talks of divorce, or it keeps coming up, or it's in the back of your mind, you're going to sleep thinking about it, waking up thinking about it, it's time to take some serious action, right? And if you've tried the counseling style before, if you tried the therapy style before, and those are just not your styles and you want to try something different, we encourage you to look into the coaching style. If you want more information, you can check out our show notes below in the description box, and we can give you more information about what it's like to experience the coaching style. But whatever you do, if you feel like this is a conversation that's come up a couple of times, it may just be time to take some long-term action. And the last one is probably one you may or may not have considered. and it's a weekend getaway. Listen, we get into a place sometimes where we just need a mental break. And that's totally understandable. Make sure that when you come back, that's the agreement. When you come back, get ready to have a real deep discussion. Because the weekend getaway isn't going to wash away the problem. It's not going to fix the problem. It's going to make you feel good for a moment. It's going to give you some peace and some clarity. And that's the perfect mental space to be in for a deeper discussion that you both need to have so you can keep this thing going forward in a positive and upward direction.
So we hope this video gave you some clarity, about the thoughts of separating and saving your marriage. We hope this was beneficial for you. And by the way, you can check out our latest video, 5 Bible verses that saved our marriage. With that being said, peace and blessings.
Peace and blessings.